Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mindful Marathon Conversations. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Quirk. I'm a pediatrician, a run coach, and the founder of Mindful Marathon, where I help make running easy and fun for busy professionals. And today I have a very special guest with me. I have with me Dr. Giselle Aerni. She is the founder of Madam Athlete LLC, where she elevates women working in male-dominated fields as the host of the Madam Athlete podcast and creator of the Women's Career Transformation Academy. She has been a team physician for NCAA D1 universities, the WNBA, and minor league baseball, as well as the program director for 2 sports medicine fellowships. She enjoys reading, container gardening, swear words, and her husband, Jim. Welcome to the show, Dr. Aerni.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Quirk. I am thrilled to be here and talking with you today.
And fun fact, we both went to the same college. Shout out to Muhlenberg College.
Go Mules.
Go Mules. So maybe we could start out. Tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe your journey with athletics before we get into it.
Yeah. So I'm a family medicine, sports medicine physician as my career. Like she said, I've been team physician, fellowship director, faculty educator. And the work that I've always loved doing is developing people into their fullest potential, whether it's my learners or my athletes. And so that is kind of the work that I most enjoy and am passionate about. My athlete journey, I was sort of I guess typical, but 3-sport kid growing up: soccer, basketball, softball, like through the works. And then in high school, I started doing Taekwondo, and I got to the point where I was teaching 3 classes a day, training every day, competing, competed in the Junior Olympics for Taekwondo, and I loved it, and it was magical. And it gave me a lot of determination and a lot of self-discipline. And it was wonderful. And then I got to Muhlenberg, got to college, and there was no Taekwondo. Like, it's just not really a thing that's going to be at your college, your D3 college. And I was a freshman. You had to take a gym credit, a wellness credit. So I was taking this gym class, and the brand new women's lacrosse coach was my teacher for the course. And she was like, "You look fit. You ever played lacrosse?" And I was like, "No." She's like, "Would you like to?" Because the previous coach, I guess, was maybe mean. And so a lot of girls had quit and she couldn't recruit anyone. So this brand new coach did not have enough people to field a varsity lacrosse team. So she just grabbed me out of her gym class in the fall. And then I started as a freshman who had never played before in my first year in the spring. And it was amazing. And I loved it. And I competed all 4 years. I was captain senior year, and coach really, she was a strong, just badass woman. She was a real mentor of like what you can do. And so I learned a lot from that. I was always better mentally, physically, academically when I was balancing sports and I was staying active and I was doing something. And we joked about this before, Michelle, but running is maybe not my absolute favorite thing in the whole world. And I used to joke about my Taekwondo experience that like, if it came to that fight or flight situation, I was just going to have to fight because flight was not the option for me. So
yeah. I didn't know that about the lacrosse story. That's really crazy. But wonderful how it turned out.
It was like the most incredible Division III experience, just like walk onto the team, never having played before. And, we weren't amazing my first year because I was not the only one, but by the 4th year, she had really recruited folks, put together a team. We really did so much better. We'd had amazing strides over the 4 years, and I learned a ton and I loved it.
Do you think that you ended up going into sports medicine because of that experience, or did you know that you wanted to do that?
That's a good question. I had in high school, I shadowed a family friend who was an orthopedic spine surgeon. And I sort of had this idea that medicine was in the back of my mind because I was just nerdy. And so medicine seemed like what nerds do. It wasn't really super well thought out, this plan. And I shadowed him and I thought, it was just beautiful, like the musculoskeletal system, how things line up. I loved it. But then in college, it was a lot more I knew how much better I was when I was also being an athlete, when I was also being active.
Yeah.
And so I had this idea in my mind that I could help college student athletes, because it's this transition time in their life where they're starting to get independent, but they're not totally independent. They're still, idiots, and we love them. And if I could help them during that transition time where they're starting to become independent, when they're learning about really taking care of their own health and wellness, and they're balancing the academics and the sports and just life as a college student, that I'd really be able to have an impact in that time. And so I think, that was all part of, for me, what got me thinking about sports medicine, and especially working with college student athletes.
Yeah.
And, I didn't have a lot of the sports med docs go, well, I had this injury and the sports medicine doc fixed me. And I was like, I want to do this. I didn't have that experience, knock on wood. So.
Yeah. Knock on wood.
Yes.
Well, we wanted to talk a little bit today about identities. And this comes up a lot for my runners. It came up for me, certainly. That I was not always a runner, and I had it in my mind, I think, especially when I was in maybe high school and college, like who is a runner and who is not, who is an athlete, who is not. And I did not identify as either. And a lot of my people say this too, like, who am I to be out there doing this or run a half marathon, and I'm not very fast, or I don't look like a runner. Anyway, so we wanted to talk a little bit about identities, and maybe, you have this unique experience working with lots of athletes.
Yes, this topic I think is so important, and there's so many even different things we could talk about within this kind of category of identities. Because one thing for my athletes, very often, it's the identity shift when you stop being that athlete, right? And again, this is, what are you defining being an athlete? What are you defining being a runner? And so a lot of my D1 college athletes, as soon as they're done with college, most of them do not go on and play professional sports, right? It is a small percentage that go on to play pro sports. So a lot of folks have a real struggle with that identity shift, where they're no longer an athlete, or if they get injured and they're medically disqualified and they can't play anymore from injury. A lot of people really struggle because that is the one thing they've been holding on to forever. And that is like their predominant identity. They don't have anything else. I mean, they have other things, but they don't realize it. And they really have mental crisis about it, of who am I? What am I doing? If I'm not playing, if I'm not part of the team, if I can't contribute, then like, who the heck am I? And so it's such a tricky thing. And there was an interesting study in looking at Division I athletes and looking at kids who played club sports in college, and that kids who play club sports in college go on to stay active and be healthier longer than D1 athletes. And D1 athletes, when you look out 10 years after they've retired, they're often more overweight and have more health problems. And it's just this really fascinating thing that the kids who just joined the club team because they loved it, and that was how they identified sport, as, I'm doing this for fun. Like, I might be really competitive, but I'm still like, this is just one of the things that I love to do. They keep up with it. It's one of their identities. It's not their only identity. And the athletes who are D1 athletes who retire or medically disqualify, that's their only identity. So when it's done, they're like,
what am I going to do now?
What do I do now? Yeah. And I totally feel that, right? Like when I graduated college and went to med school, there was a year or two where I kept going to the gym just out of habit, of like, all right, we work out. That's what we do. And then when there was nothing else behind it, for me, when the only reason you were working out was to not get fat, which is not the only reason, that was just like in my head, then I was like, well, this sucks. Like, this isn't fun. Why am I doing this? I wasn't part of a team. I wasn't training for a competition or a game. And there was a few years where I did nothing, and it was not awesome. And it wasn't good for my mental health, and finding a way that you can embrace the identity of an athlete that is your identity, and that does not matter what other people think it means to be an athlete. Like, that is how you hang on to that. And that is how you can also shift as your abilities change, as your injuries change, as the seasons change, as your life changes. You can still inhabit that identity of an athlete and still approach life that way, and still be active and enjoy it, instead of feeling not good enough because you're not, that level athlete.
Yeah. remembering the athlete who you were. I definitely have a lot of runners who maybe were competitive, in high school or college. And I don't know, I think to some degree they're afraid, like, will I ever be able to run like that again? And, if not, what does that mean? But will I be happy if, what is the measure of of your happiness or your the goals that you set, and where are you? I've definitely had some people who they stop themselves from ever getting started again because they're really trying to live up to the runner who they were. And that doesn't necessarily mean, yes, sometimes we often get slower as we get older, but not always. And there are plenty of stories and amazing runners who are older. And so it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get slower, but yeah, that's a hurdle for people. So your advice is great.
It's so important because it's when you have that fixed identity of what it means to be a runner, and it only means that you're running a 6-minute mile or better, and you're only doing 60 miles a week. And if you can't do that, then it doesn't count. Like, how are you going to enjoy? Like, how are you going to handle a rough patch? How are you going to handle getting back into things when you haven't done it?
Yeah.
But then, like I think you had started to say too, there's the people who never did it before, who were never a D1 college athlete or were never a high school athlete. And there can be this huge pressure to even start something because it feels impossible. Like, how do you become a runner? You see these Boston marathoners and they're 2-hour marathons. Like, no, Giselle, that's not in the cards for you ever. And if that was the only identity that I consider, like, that's a runner, and since I'm not that, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
But I was seeing something the other day, and it was somebody was talking about essentially getting rid of the word try. Like, not I'm trying to run, but I am running.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to be a runner, I am a runner, right? And if you're running at all, you can own that identity as being a runner. And it doesn't matter if you can go out 3 times a week, if you can go out 6 days a week, if you can go out once a week, if you're doing a walk run program, if you are shuffling along, like, whatever that is, you can own it and you can be proud of it. And when you embrace that mindset of owning that identity, of taking on the identity to say, I am a runner, then you can start to go, okay, well, what would a runner do? When you're having one of those days where you're like, I don't know if I feel like putting on these sneakers. You're like, well, I'm a runner though, but I'm a runner. What would a runner do? Instead of going, well, I'm somebody who just tries to run, or I pretend to run. And so then it's real easy to not put on those shoes because, like, you already don't believe in yourself.
Yeah. And we like to keep shifting the start line a little bit. Like, for me, when I started, it was like, well, I'm going to do this 5K, but I'm doing sort of run walk, so I'm not like a real runner. And then, a couple of 5Ks down the road, then I do whatever distance, 10K race, like, oh yeah, but I haven't run a half marathon. And like, you do that, and oh, well, I'm not a marathoner, so and like each time I would find myself at a start line and think like, well, but I don't know if I really belong here. Like, at some point, I kept moving the start line. I don't know how much further you're going to move it. So we just have to embrace it.
Yes. Right. Like, sometimes it's that perfectionism almost. And it is like, on the one hand, awesome to set yourself new goals and go like, hey, now I've crushed a 5K. I think I want to go after a 10K. Like, if that's what you want, great, do it. But if you are pushing that identity of like, well, this isn't good enough, like, and that's why you're going after that new thing, or that's why you've decided, well, this actually wasn't good enough, that's what it means to be a runner. Oh wait, nope, actually that's what it means to be a runner. Oh wait, actually, then you're never getting there. You're never enjoying the journey and the process and the work that you're doing day in and day out, because that's what it is to be a runner, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
if the only person who's a runner has won Boston Marathon 3 years in a row, like, right? Because even the person who wins it once, what are they going like, well, but I didn't repeat.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't have the record for the most Boston Marathon wins. Like, you could keep doing that indefinitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And something I learned from my coach, my running coach, is that, when you think about it, the race that we're working toward, the race day itself is really such a small piece of that entire training cycle, right? Like you train for however many months, depending on what it is. And then you have this one day, and sometimes, it could be over in 30 minutes to, a couple hours.
Yeah.
And you had this entire training cycle. So you might as well, you want to find training that you can enjoy, so that you're enjoying the entire training journey, and then make the race. He calls it the victory lap, like the the celebration.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Right? Because so often that race, or like whatever you're going after in your life, that promotion, that new job, whatever, you don't have control over that outcome, right? Like there's a billion other people running that race too. Like you cannot control how fast they go. You can only control your training. You can't even control if you get sick or you don't sleep the night before, or like,
weather.
But the weather, yes, like there's so many variables. So if that is the only thing you're hanging your hat on as a runner, is this one race, and did I run it fast enough? And did I win? Did I, whatever you placed, whatever is important to you. If that's the only thing, then you're missing out on like all that enjoyment you could have had along the way. And you're putting a ton of pressure on something that you don't fully have control over. You can prepare, you can train, you can put yourself in the best mindset possible, and things can go wrong. Like, and it might not be you.
You've worked with a lot of athletes. How did that help you develop your course that you have?
It's a great question. And I started with my podcast, the Madam Athlete podcast, and it was about, for me, like I was saying at the beginning, the work that I love to do is to help develop other really women specifically in reaching their full potential. And as a sports medicine doc, and as a sports medicine fellowship director, and also working with athletic trainers and residents and sports psych and PhD students and athletes, like it's all the same. It's all developing you into the best you can be. It's beyond, do you know how the ACL works? Like, do you know the musculoskeletal exam? It's that, can you advocate for yourself? Can you negotiate for yourself? How do you handle the toxic workplace? And it's also one of the most incredible things is you can have your own identities, and you don't have to be the sports medicine physician who is the head team physician, or the sports medicine team physician, or the sports medicine physician who is in an ortho office, or like a researcher, right? What are your options? There's not many, but actually there's a million options. And we get so stuck in these paths, especially in medicine, but in all sorts of life and careers, where we go, this is the only way to do it. So it's even like we're talking about the running, and you keep, well, this is the only way to run. Like you have to be somebody who runs a full marathon, or it doesn't count. And there's really just so many different ways you can do it. And so helping people to realize that what's important to them, their values, their mission, their vision, what matters to them, like that is literally the only thing that matters, and then build a career off of that. And so I started the podcast to help inspire other women working in sports and athletics. And at first I was just interviewing women about their career journeys. And one of the things that kept coming up over and over and over again was that people have all sorts of journeys. You thought you were going this way, side tangent, life happens, like new job, whatever. And they do these amazing and incredible things, and they're not straight line journeys. Yeah. And so it kind of came from starting to see those patterns, starting to see things over and over about people feeling like they couldn't do something different, right? Like you couldn't call yourself a runner. Like it was imposter syndrome of, I can't really do this. Who does that? And then once they broke through and like had these amazing journeys and saw all the different things they could do, and to share that with people. Yeah. So that's what prompted me to start the course and to create the Women's Career Transformation Academy. And I work with women working in male-dominated fields specifically. And obviously I have a lot of folks who are sports medicine docs, athletic trainers, PTs, just because that's my community. But I have had engineers in the course, and I help women to really build their confidence and to take a look at their career and go, what what am I doing here? What's important to me? What are my values? What's my mission? What's my vision? And we go through some of the same mindset work that I know you go through with your runners, of that imposter syndrome and the identity and perfectionism and fear of failure. And we work through all of that. And I think it's so important. And I think this is something like we've been talking about this whole time. You can be any kind of runner and you can own it and you can be a runner. Yeah. But you have to make that identity for yourself. You have to decide who you are and how you do it and what's awesome for you, and then go get after it and then go do it. And so it's the same thing for this course. And I ran it twice last year. It was truly amazing. It was beyond even what I expected. And I expected pretty great things. Like, I was really excited for it, but it was really just the most incredible experience. And the women who have gone through it some of them have changed jobs. Some of them have said, oh, you know what? I gave up work on all these committees that I just kept signing up for because I thought I was supposed to, but I was sitting there going, I don't even like this. I don't want to do this. And now I've freed up that time and I'm working on stuff that I actually really do love. And a lot of them were struggling with imposter syndrome and struggling with feeling like, I don't belong. What am I doing here? I'm just following the motions that everybody says I should follow. And now I'm feeling burnt out because not only do I not feel good about being here, like it's not in alignment with my values. It's not the work that I love doing. I don't even know how to do something different. Yeah. So there's been so much just transformation, right? That's the goal. And it's just been really amazing. And I think when you have athletes, like, this is me tying it back to that study, when you have an athlete who is just sort of being told by their coach, by their strength and conditioning coach, by their parents, by whoever, that this is what it means to be an athlete, you get out there, you practice, you compete. And then as soon as that motivation is gone, as soon as the external pressure is gone and they don't have the internal motivation, or they're just burnt out, right? That's when they fall off, and that's when they stop being active, and that's when they stop working out and they stop exercising and they start having unhealthy like habits and unhealthy life. But the folks who are club athletes, who were finding the sports that they loved and were participating the amount that they wanted to, and were competing with the intensity that they chose to. And those are the ones who kept it up, and who kept going decades after college and were continuing to be active. And so I think it's sort of the same thing of helping you figure out your own identity, what's important to you, how are you going to define your career? Because it's you. So that's what I'm up to. That's how it all came about. And
I love what you do. I mean, I think you're helping people. I would like to say you're helping them to like take a step off the treadmill, because we're very, very good at like piling more stuff on and just kind of plowing forward. And somehow, like days turn into weeks, months, and years, and we keep adding things without subtracting things, or at least taking stock of like where we are and like, who am I? What am I doing here? Where am I going?
Yes. Like, is this still the treadmill I want to be on? Like,
exactly.
Would I like to be on that one over there? Would I like to get out and have a trail run? Like, what I just have been here and my head has been down. I've just been doing the work, and you don't stop and look around.
Yep. Nope, for sure. Well, tell everyone you're having an upcoming masterclass, and tell everyone where they can find you and more information about your course.
Yes, you can find me at madamathlete.com, and probably the easiest online or social media place is Instagram. I'm at the Madam Athlete. And the course is going to open up in May for the first time. Not first time, it's the third time, but it's the first time this year. I'm very excited. But before that goes live, I'm hosting a free masterclass on how to crush your imposter syndrome. And I just love it because it's a fun way to like share knowledge, to interact, because like we can talk, like you can say hello, we can go after any issues you're having. And imposter syndrome, I think, is a really kind of hot topic lately, because we know that women struggle with it, but we also know that it's truly not our fault. It's really just, we live in this patriarchal society, and you're not paid equally, and you are not promoted equally, and you are not treated equally. And so like all of the messaging is that you don't belong. And that's not your fault. Like that's not your fault. But because I can't just fix the patriarchy, like real quick, we're working on it, but like, I don't have it down yet. You still got to figure out how to get your confidence. You have to like figure out where this messaging is coming from, how you're internalizing it, so that you can go like, no, I'm not listening to you. I am an athlete. I am a runner. Get out of here. Like, this is my job. I'm doing this and I'm awesome. So I'm hosting a free masterclass on how to crush your imposter syndrome. I'm hosting a few sessions of it. I believe the first one is April 26th. So anyone is welcome to join. You can sign up at madamathlete.com/masterclass. And I would love to see you there. And you let me know that you came here from Michelle Quirk and you're like, hey.
I'll be there. I'll be there
yes.
too. I'm going to sign up. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing all of your knowledge. I love what you do. And yeah, wishing you all success this year and in years to come.
Thank you so much. I love what you're doing as well. I think it's so important. Everyone needs a coach in their corner, helping them, build these identities and take them on and get this mindset. So I love it.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. If you liked it, please subscribe and share it with a friend. And if you are a newer runner or a runner who hasn't run in a while and you're looking to get back into the sport, you can find out how to work with me over on my website, which is mindful-marathon.com. See you on the next episode.